It began quietly without fanfare like so many revolutions in science do. A few isolated observations, a few confused astronomers, a few lines of code that refused to balance. Deep within the data streams from the Lowell Observatory, the James Webb Space Telescope, and NASA's Solar Dynamics mission, a single anomaly began to pulse like static through an otherwise calm sky. The object known as 3E Atlas, our third confirmed visitor from interstellar space, was behaving in a way that nothing in physics could justify. Its path was off by fractions of an arcsec. Tiny shifts invisible to the human eye, but unmistakable to the precision instruments watching it. The numbers didn't lie. They whispered of a force, invisible, immense, and deliberate, acting upon a body that by every law of nature should have been slowing down. But 3-2 Atlas wasn't slowing down. It was accelerating. And not by a little. By an amount so impossible that it left seasoned astronomers staring at their monitors in silence, realizing that they were watching something no human had ever seen before. At first, there were whispers of comparison. Another interstellar visitor had done this once before. Oumuamua back in 2017. The strange flat tumbling relic that broke free of gravitational prediction and sailed off into the dark, gaining speed without explanation. But where Oumuamua's acceleration had been subtle, mysterious, and fleeting, 3I Atlas's was something far bolder. Its surge was measured, sustained, undeniable. An eruption of motion from a body tens of billions of tons in mass, defying drag, defying thermodynamics, defying sense itself. It was as if the cosmos had decided to replay a familiar mystery, but this time to turn the volume all the way up. For half a year, 3 Atlas had played by the rules. It coasted through the solar system like any other comet, dim, cold, and predictable. Its orbit was modeled perfectly by Newton's equations. Its light curve gentle, its composition consistent with expectations. Water, ice, trace metals, carbon dioxide, the usual cosmic recipe. There was no reason to believe it was anything special. But as it reached its perihelion, the moment it brushed closest to the sun, that calm obedience fractured. In a single 24-hour window, telescopes detected a measurable continuous acceleration of 0.0202 mm/s squared. That sounds laughably small until you consider its scale. Over hours, over days, across an object weighing 33 billion tons, that shift became monstrous. To produce that movement through ordinary cometary activity, 3 Atlas would have had to eject billions of tons of gas and dust in one catastrophic burst, a detonation brighter than any nova. Yet there was no explosion, no debris, no plume of gas glowing behind it. The surrounding vacuum remained pristine. It was as though something inside the object had ignited silently, something controlled, smooth, and efficient. Astronomers crunched the numbers in disbelief. The thrust required to cause such acceleration would equal 660 million tons. The output of 9 SpaceX starships firing their engines simultaneously, yet sustained across the cold emptiness of space where nothing burns, nothing moves, and nothing survives without a reason. Nature doesn't do precision, but 3 Atlas was precise. Every second, its vector adjusted in ways that mimic trajectory correction. The kind of subtle steering one sees from spacecraft, not comets. In mission control rooms and university offices, scientists stopped talking and started staring, realizing that their equations were describing an impossible truth. The object wasn't just being pushed, it was being piloted. The world had seen this story before, or at least a quieter version of it. In 2017, the mysterious Oumuamua swept through the inner solar system, spinning like a sheet of metal, reflecting sunlight strangely and leaving no tail behind. It too accelerated slightly without any visible outgassing, sparking theories of light sails and alien technology. But 3 Atlas was no fragile shard gliding gently through space. It was a fortress hundreds of meters wide, heavy beyond comprehension, dense enough to absorb cosmic rays for billions of years without disintegrating. For something so massive to accelerate faster than Oumuamua should have been impossible. It's like comparing a leaf caught in the wind to a mountain that suddenly decides to move. And yet, that's what happened. The instruments at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory confirmed it. 3 Atlas's non-gravitational acceleration was not random, nor did it vary with sunlight exposure. It was consistent. No comet behaves that way. When ice vents beneath the surface, jets fire in chaotic directions, spinning the nucleus and sending it tumbling unpredictably. But Atlas's motion was graceful, its rotation unchanged, its trajectory smooth. Even as its speed increased, it maintained the same alignment relative to the Sun. As if the force propelling it was not erupting from its surface, but emanating from within. It was no longer obeying physics. It was writing new ones. And for the first time, the world of astronomy faced a thought too big to ignore. What if both 3I Atlas and Oumuamua weren't accidents? What if they were connected? To explain away the impossible, scientists reached for the familiar. They proposed outgassing volatile ices sublimating into vapor, pushing the comet forward like a cosmic steam engine. But when they calculated the required outflow, the numbers collapsed under their own weight. To generate 660 million tons of thrust, Atlas would have to eject 1/10 of its mass in hours, leaving behind a colossal glowing tail visible from Earth. Yet, every telescope aimed at it saw nothing. Even the James Webb, tuned to detect thermal emissions and infrared heat, found no signature of gas, no water, no dust, no plume. The void around 3I Atlas remained clean. The conclusion was inescapable. This was not heat-driven motion. It was directed propulsion. And then came the spectrum. When analyzed, the light from the object burned blue, not white or red as typical comets do. Blue light means higher energy, far higher than solar reflection could account for. It wasn't sunlight bouncing off ice. It was radiation emerging from within. Something was generating power, and not through chemical reaction. The temperature, luminosity, and emission lines didn't match any known process of natural sublimation. It was as though the object had switched on. Like a silent engine reigniting after a long sleep, Atlas flared, accelerated, and then stabilized. A perfect controlled burst of motion. When Dr. Avi Low reviewed the figures, his conclusion was blunt. The energy required here exceeds any natural explanation. In his models, sunlight pressure alone could not account for the readings unless the object was an ultra-thin structure. A light sail much like Oumuamua was theorized to be. But Atlas was not thin. It was dense, massive, ancient. If radiation pressure couldn't do it, and outgassing wasn't visible, only one scenario remained. Propulsion by design. Lowe suggested that if the acceleration was internal, the power source would have to exceed our chemical capabilities by several orders of magnitude, operating in near-perfect silence and without exhaust. A nuclear drive perhaps, or something beyond our understanding of matter-antimatter interaction. Whatever it was, it implied intent. Nature does not build engines. Someone does, but who and why now? The timing was suspiciously poetic. Humanity had only just begun to develop the tools to detect such precision. The sensitive optics, the radar arrays, the deep space probes. It was almost as if the universe had waited for us to look before sending another message. Clearer, louder, impossible to ignore. If this is artificial, Lowe said, then it's the oldest surviving technology we've ever found. Older than Earth, older than our Sun. What makes 3 Atlas even more unnerving is the way it shines. Its brightness follows no natural curve. It pulses faintly in a rhythm that no rotation model can explain. Not spinning, not flickering, but oscillating as if modulated. Astronomers noticed it during the post-perihelion phase. Every few hours, the light intensity fluctuated in symmetrical intervals, repeating with mechanical precision. No comet, no asteroid, no natural object in recorded history has ever emitted light this way. Some compared it to solar glint from polished metal, others to a signal. But in truth, it's both too simple and too complex for either. The wavelengths shift in harmonic ratios as though tuned, the kind of pattern one would expect from adaptive optics or reflective calibration. To the naked eye, it's nothing but a glimmer in the dark. To instruments, it's a language written in light. If the acceleration itself was strange, the illumination made it eerie. When Atlas burned blue, its spectrum momentarily matched that of superheated plasma reaching temperatures hotter than the sun's surface. And yet, instead of evaporating, it remained stable. That's when Lowe's team said what no one else dared. We're not watching geology. We're watching engineering. Every time scientists thought they'd found the limit of the impossible, Atlas raised the bar higher. Its mass, roughly 3.3*10 to the power of 13 kilograms, should make any acceleration beyond a microscopic drift inconceivable. Yet over the course of just one day, its path shifted by thousands of km. That kind of energy applied with such elegance shouldn't exist outside of human-made propulsion. If this were a comet venting at random, it would have shattered itself into fragments. But Atlas remains whole, silent, and perfectly symmetrical. The implication is staggering. Whatever is powering it, the control is absolute. It's not flailing. It's steering. And its new trajectory doesn't lead out of the solar system in a straight line. It bends faintly toward interplanetary space as though following a plan. To imagine the scale of that feat, picture a mountain the size of Manhattan gently changing course mid-flight, drifting away under invisible power. No exhaust, no flare, no sound, just motion. It feels less like astronomy and more like observation of an ancient forgotten machine finally waking up. The final confirmation came not from motion or light, but from how Atlas reflected it. Its polarization signature, the angle and quality of its reflected photons, did not match dust, rock, or ice. Instead, it behaved like a metallic surface, smooth and uniform, reflecting light in a controlled pattern. The reflection angles were too consistent to be random, almost as if engineered to minimize detection. That would explain why during perihelion, when the sun should have scattered light wildly across its surface, the object appeared eerily calm, as though absorbing what it didn't wish to show. When compared to Comet Lemon, which was observed under the same solar conditions, the difference was night and day. Lemon flared with a spectacular dust plume. Atlas remained a single pristine point. Some astrophysicists tried to explain it as carbon fusion, others as regolith smoothing from cosmic radiation, but none of it fit the optical data. There were no grains, no irregularity, no evidence of random surface erosion. The shape of 3I Atlas was precise, symmetrical, almost architectural. If you believe in coincidence, it's an elegant one. If you don't, it's a revelation. Now, as it fades into the darkness beyond Mars, its acceleration continues. The numbers hold steady, the anomaly persists, and the question no longer belongs to astronomers. It belongs to humanity. What are we really looking at? A rock sculpted by physics, a relic of cosmic history, or the oldest messenger we've ever intercepted, built long before our species learned to look up? Every possibility is terrifying in its own way. If it's natural, the universe is capable of creating engines by accident. If it's not, then we are no longer alone in building them on purpose. 3 Atlas is more than a comet now. It's a test of our instruments, our reason, and our courage to admit that the unknown still exists. It has broken every law we thought unbreakable, outpaced Oumuamua, and forced us to confront the uncomfortable truth that maybe, just maybe, we were never the first to sail among the stars. As the world's telescopes continue to follow the fading point of light known as 3 Atlas, one truth has already crystallized in the cold silence of space. We are staring at something that refuses to play by the rules of nature. Every instrument, every spectrum, every line of data says the same thing. This is not just a rock, not just a comet, not just another frozen relic drifting through time. It is something else, something deliberate, something that moves with purpose. The moment its acceleration surpassed that of Oumuamua, the story of interstellar visitors stopped being a curiosity and became a confrontation. Because if two objects from have now entered our system, both accelerating without visible cause, both ignoring the laws that bind everything else we know, then either the universe is capable of miracles we cannot yet describe, or someone somewhere is testing the limits of what we can see. The idea is terrifying, not because it implies contact, but because it implies intelligence. An intelligence old enough to cross galaxies without being seen. Powerful enough to disguise machinery as stone and patient enough to wait for another civilization to notice. Maybe that's what this is. Not a message, not an invasion, but a mirror. A test to see if we're finally paying attention. For centuries, we've looked up and assumed the cosmos was indifferent. That we were alone in its vast, cold expanse. But 3 Atlas is the first thing that has ever looked back. Not through eyes, but through motion, through silence, through defiance. Dr. Avi Loeb once said, when something behaves outside the laws of physics, it's not the object that's wrong, it's our understanding. Maybe that's what this moment is about. Maybe the universe isn't breaking its own rules. Maybe it's just revealing how incomplete ours are. Perhaps we've spent so long defining what's natural that we've forgotten how easily nature can outgrow our definitions. Or perhaps this isn't nature at all. Perhaps it's a design so ancient that it's become indistinguishable from it. Technology buried under eons of cosmic dust, drifting silently from star to star until we were ready to see it. The acceleration continues. The blue light flickers. The polarization curve remains perfect. Every clue points toward an intelligence that either built this or once used it. A silent monument to something greater than our understanding. And as it slips farther from the sun, its trajectory bending toward the interstellar dark, one can't help but wonder, is it leaving or is it returning to where it came from? Because if this was a coincidence, it's the most extraordinary one in the history of the cosmos. And if it wasn't, if 3 Atlas truly is a construct, a vessel, or even a probe, then the implications are beyond imagination. It would mean that somewhere out there, long before our species could dream of flight, someone else had already mastered the stars. They watched them burn. They watched them die. And then they left behind fragments like this one. Silent witnesses to civilizations that once were. And now, as our telescopes finally touched their light, it feels less like discovery and more like recognition. Maybe 3 Atlas is proof that we've never really been alone. Maybe it's proof that the universe itself is alive, vast, ancient, and aware of us. Maybe it's something simpler still, a whisper from time, reminding us that intelligence doesn't vanish. It endures. It travels. It observes. It waits. So, as you hear these words, remember every beam of light crossing the black carries information. And somewhere in that endless sea, this object still glows, moving faster than any comet ever should. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's intention. But either way, the sky has changed and we will never look at it the same way again. If this story made you question what's really out there, don't let it fade into silence. Subscribe to this channel because we'll keep following every new anomaly the universe reveals. Turn on notifications. The next object could already be on its way. And tell us in the comments, is 3I Atlas a natural wanderer or the first machine humanity has ever witnessed from another civilization?